like me. I am Revan!
Hey, Star Wars fans, the Blues Bro here, and not a lightsaber video today. I guess you could say this is more of a cosplay video, I guess. So I recently got myself a 3D printer, and I made this. I was loading some pictures to Instagram, and Sam of Absolute Sabers said, "Dude, you're making a Revan mask? I need to get a Revan mask from you." So, Sam, little demo video for your Revan. Spring side is your negative. Just kidding.
Spring side is your negative.
So, hey, man, I made this. I've painted it. I've finished it. It's all good to go, and I've been hanging on to it for like a week, just because it was like my first print, my prototype, and I just, was a little hard to let go of this. So anyway, I'm ready to let go of it because my kid's been playing with it. It's been dropped a couple of times. It's starting to get a little bit of that, like, Boba Fett weathering going on in the dome here. And I'm just afraid it's going to get destroyed. So I need to go ahead and send this thing to you. But again, it was like my prototype. I put a lot of time and effort into it. So I wanted to make just a little quick video. I doubt it will be quick. I always say that, but it never turns out that way. I just wanted to make a video on the process of making this, kind of like just to document it for me. So if no one watches this, doesn't bug me at all. I'm making this video for me just to kind of remember it. But yeah, so anyway, 3D printing, not easy. So you know how like installers are always like, you should try installing. It's not as hard as you would think. And, I can't imagine a lot of 3D printers, a lot of people who have 3D printers think that or say that. It's a whole new world of things to learn and get used to and do research on. And it's also a lot like the lightsaber community in that, you can't just like call someone up and you can't just call up the company and say, what am I doing wrong? How do I fix this? There's like no support system really out there other than the community. So for example, I had a defective part on my printer. It was a cooling fan duct that shot the air down towards the nozzle that cooled down the filament, the plastic. And so anyway, this little cooling duct came down and it was too low and it was actually hitting on the print as it was printing. So as it would come across the print bed, it would hit all the support rails and it'd go flick, 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 flick. And it ended up actually making this mask fail on me, because it knocked it so hard and knocked it right off the print bed. So anyway, I tried calling Sovel, the company that makes this. There's no phone number. I called Amazon, and because it's within, so many days, they do have a support, but it's like, it's not exactly what you would think for support. So you just go out to the community and try to find stuff. So what I ended up finding was a printable file for a cooling duct. And this is the funniest story. I printed a part on my 3D printer to fix my 3D printer. So here's a picture of what the fan looked like and the part that I printed. So how funny is that? I used the printer to fix the printer. But anyway, so when it comes to 3D printing, there's just so much to learn. And a lot of it has to do with bed leveling, temperature, height, Z offset, filament, and yeah, so you need to learn all these different things, and when you get everything dialed in right, it works. When one thing's off, it doesn't work so great. So I had multiple times where my Z offset was off. So it looks like the print nozzle is like right there, but it's actually 1 millimeter too high. So it's just printing in the air versus pushing the plastic, kind of melting it as it goes. And yeah, so anyway, 3D printing, I thought, silly me, I thought I'll buy a 3D printer. I'll just hit print and it will magically work. Not the case. So if you decide to dive into 3D printing because of this video, just know I warned you. You got a lot to learn. It's been fun to learn that stuff, though. It's a lot to learn. In fact, that's why it's not printing tonight. I'm taking a little sanity break from 3D printing because I got frustrated with it again. So, but I've gotten pretty close. I think I got it nearly dialed in good now. So anyway, let's talk about the Revan mask. So after it failed on me, so it got about this far through the print. In fact, if I get the light just right, you can kind of see where the seam is. It's a little hard to see this seam to the naked eye, if you're just looking at it. So like if you're at a convention or maybe even making a video, it's not so noticeable, but under these, I got the Elgato key lights, they're super bright, so it definitely points out more flaws than what you would normally see. But anyway, you can see how far I got where it failed on me, because that cooling duct hit the print and actually knocked it off the bed, where it was printing like in midair, so I had all these little spaghetti strings all over everything. Fortunately, I caught it like 20 minutes in, so it wasn't too bad. But what I did is I took the piece that did print and my calipers, and I measured it, and I think it was something like, I don't know, we'll say 70 millimeters. So whatever that was, very specifically 71.6 millimeters. I went into the slicer software. The software is what creates the G code for the printer to know how to move this way, and this way. So I went into the slicer software. I used Kira, and I lowered the print negative 71.2, whatever that specific number was, millimeters. So therefore, here's like the imaginary print surface in the slicing software. It brought it down to here. So just everything above that printed. So the idea was I'm only going to print the part that I didn't get through, that failed. So let me show you a picture of that. So you can see the two different pieces. I was probably off by a millimeter maybe, because the front side of it was just a hair smaller than the back side of it. But then again, it also could have just been, stretched out, or, printing a little sideways or something. But anyway, it was close enough where I was going to try to revive this. I mean, silly me, I probably should have just thrown it away. I didn't want to lose that 17 hours or whatever it was of printing, so I wanted to try to revive it. What I did was I used E6000 all the way around it, and just a couple dabs of super glue, just to kind of set it and get it to stay in place, because E6000 takes so long to fully cure or dry. Wrapped it with rubber bands and a couple of clamps, and then let it sit for I think I let it sit for 2 days actually. Came back to it, and it held kind of. It was a little looser in the cheeks. There's a little movement there. And what I ended up learning, that I learned this well after I was into the painting phase of this. Otherwise, I probably would have done this. But what you can do is take like a soldering iron, or like a wood burning kit, like a flat hot tip, and you got the two pieces next to each other, and you can just go down the seam with that soldering iron, and it kind of like welds the two pieces together. Or you can, take that flat end and turn it perpendicular to the seam and actually melt in, like stitches. But, because the bottom piece and the top piece have now melted together, that's obviously a really great hold, because it's all just one piece at that point. It's plastic. So I wish I would have done that. Something I learned for next time. So anyway, you get your 3D printer, you finally figure out how to get it working, you print the piece, and then you look at it and you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't look good. Like, you can see all the print lines. So if you take a pretty close look at this here, you can see that there are some really strong, print lines in it. If I were to paint this, you're going to see all of those lines. So you need to make the surface look nice, and lots of different ways to go about that. There's a guy out there, the name of his company is Galactic Armory, and he's got a YouTube channel. Most of the stuff that I've learned about doing this, I've learned from watching his YouTube channel, as well as another guy, Frankly Built, I think is the name of his channel. But anyway, what Galactic Armory does is he uses 3D resin and kind of just paints the whole surface of the mask and then puts it under UV light and cures it. And that gives you a much flatter surface to work with from the get-go, before having to do a whole bunch of sanding. So I was a little too scared to try that. I need to do more research. I need to know even where to buy the 3D resin and what kind to get and what kind of UV lights I need. I need to get a respirator, because when you sand resin, you get much finer particles that you're breathing. So anyway, I think I will learn all that for, future projects. But, this being my first print, I didn't want to go too nuts and start spending a whole bunch of money on all that stuff. So the other two routes you can go are just using Bondo or wood filler. So what a lot of people use is, I think it's called Bondo glazing spot putty, just like what people will use in automotive, doing, body work. So what you do is you can cover the whole thing with this glazing spot putty and then sand it down, or just the pieces that, are really, where there's cracks or really deep lines. So anyway, I couldn't find that locally. I ended up going to a hardware or automotive store to get some of the paint that I got, and I found it there. So I might try that next time. But what Frankly Built uses is wood filler, just plain old cheap wood filler. So I got that, and it actually worked out really good. And if you've ever seen his Iron Man cosplay, it's amazing to think that he's just using wood filler and all this stuff, and he's getting these awesome smooth surfaces. I figured if it works that well for him, I might as well try it. So anyway, you can see here I loaded it up with wood filler in the spots that I thought really needed some attention. Take one step back. I sanded the whole mask, all the plastic, with an 60 or 80 grit, something, pretty low. Sanded it as best I could, and then I went into the wood filler phase here. So I filled in all the places where I thought it was going to need it. And then I used 120 grit sandpaper, and I sanded that all the way down to the point where, you just have a little bit of that wood filler left. So what you're trying to do is, let's say you got a piece here, and a print line with a dip between the two of them. So the wood filler's trying to fill that dip in so that you just have a flat surface again. Probably self-explanatory. But so anyway, you want to sand off everything except for, what you need. So at this point, it's actually pretty smooth after sanding it. I was pretty happy with it. So I got some sandable filler primer, and that's what I got from the automotive store. And so I gave that, I think, 2 light coats, and then I sanded it with 220 grit sandpaper. And it was starting to look pretty good. I felt I probably needed one more coat, so I did another coat of the sandable filler primer, and then I sanded it with 400 grit sandpaper. And now, as you can see here, it was getting nice and smooth. I thought it was good enough for paint at that point. So this, again, one of my first projects. I didn't want to spend a lot of money, although I've I've probably spent quite a bit at this point already. Trial and error. Anyway, so I decided to just use acrylic paint versus going and buying a bunch of different spray cans. I figured this way, I have a ton of acrylic paint just from, painting canvases and things like that. But it turned out pretty good. So I used a really simple color scheme of, silver, red, and black. And, well, here, I'll just show it on the mask here. So I got a silver acrylic, and then it's kind of like a candy apple red. I don't know. It's a shiny red anyway. And then this black here, I actually just took a couple drops of the black acrylic and mixed it in with the silver to give myself like a shiny black, because I wanted the effect to make it kind of look like metal, which I think it did a pretty decent job of that. So anyway, yeah, that's what I use for the color scheme. And, the paint isn't perfect, but it's pretty good. If I use tape and spray cans, I might be able to make it a little bit nicer, but again, prototype, I'm pretty happy with it. Yeah, and then I gave this thing a shot of clear, waited 20 minutes, gave it another shot of clear, waited another 20 minutes, gave another shot of clear. So I had 3 at that point. And then I used some 1500 or 2000 grit wet sandpaper and started to wet sand it. And I didn't like how dull it was starting to get in places, and I know you should go buff it out, and sure it would have gotten real shiny, but I didn't like the way it was going. I thought it might start to look a little too fake. So anyway, I stopped with the sandpaper and I gave it one more shot of clear. So I think this actually has 4 or 5 clear coats on it, but it's to the point where some parts are super silky smooth and others are, a little rougher. Yeah, so anyway, I think it's looking pretty good. And again, we've put some dings in this thing. It's been dropped a couple times, unfortunately. And if you decide to just weather the heck out of this thing and put some big scratches on it or something, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I think it looks pretty good, but if you wanted to, kind of keep going with the weathered effects that are happening on here, power to you. And then on the inside, so I put some sticky back padding strips in here. This padding is actually really firm. It's not quite what I expected. I ordered it on Amazon, and when it showed up, I was like, it's not as comfy as I thought it was going to be. But you definitely need it, because if not, when you wear it, this part sits too low and it kind of makes the chin stick out. So it looks awkward without the padding. The padding kind of makes it straight up and down again. But yeah, because it's so firm, it's like it's forcing itself away from the mask, and it's actually come off once. I had to put it back on. I think the adhesive just isn't the greatest on this. So if it shows up and in the box these have fallen off, that's what it used to look like. You might consider just cutting them and putting squares of the padding versus the long rectangle, because I think that's what's maybe making it fall off. And then this is industrial strength Velcro. I forget which YouTube video I caught that from, but they said it's a great idea for attaching masks because this industrial strength Velcro has a really strong adhesive on it, like a sticky back. And sure enough, these have never come up on me. In fact, the elastic band that I use for the strap, this is just sticky back adhesive on these Velcro, and that hasn't come off the fabric. So I mean, it's really, really strong adhesive. But yeah, so what's great about this is that you can put it on really far in. If, like for example, my kid was wearing the mask, so this gave it a small circumference. But then you can also, we got big heads, you can kind of barely touch it to the Velcro, and now you got a nice big head strap there. But it's actually super comfortable. And then this is a Hobart grinding shield. And I just cut it down to fit inside here. And I thought that it's actually green, by the way. But it's just when it becomes so dark, you can't even tell. But So I cut that down to fit in there, and I bought something called Steel Stick. I think I got this from Galactic Armory, a tip from him. But you attach it with like super glue or something just to get it to sit in there, and then you can put Steel Stick on some of the corners or the center, and it's like silly putty. And when you mix these two chemicals together, it hardens, and it's like silly putty that becomes as hard as stone. So anyway, I bought it. It was like $10 for a tube of it. And I'm mixing the two pieces together. It's kind of interesting. It has like this exothermic reaction. It like heats up. And then I went to put it in the mask, and it was already hardening on me, and I couldn't even get it to stay on because I had like mixed it too long. So 1 minute is all you got with this stuff. So I'd recommend, if you use Steel Stick, small quantities at a time, do one part, mix another, do another part. But I mixed it all together, and I ended up using super glue, hot glue. But the hot glue, if I hold it by the visor, you'll see it's actually really, really strong. So I actually filled in all the way behind it with hot glue in 6 places. So it's actually like a big puddle behind here, and then goes over the edge to hold it in, and it's really, really strong. So I'm happy with how well the hot glue worked. And it's not in any places that like touch your face, so it's not like uncomfortable or anything. You can see there's some of that wood filler because I didn't paint the inside of the mask. Oh, it's a good place to see where the print lines are too, because there we go. See some of those print lines like down here? So that's what the masks look like on the front, and can actually, it's like ridges. But so anyway, and then got the front of it all nice and smooth and shiny. So again, you can kind of see where the two pieces came together a little bit. You can kind of tell there's like a difference in angle or something with some really bright lights on there, but just the naked eye, not so much. But that is our Revan mask. What do you think, man? I hope you like it. I hope you enjoy this thing. I had a heck of a lot of fun making it. It was also a lot of work, lots of sanding. But yeah, man, I can't wait to go try the next one. I think maybe next I'll try a helmet. I don't know. I'm starting to feel like I got the printer dialed in enough where I could try a helmet, but we'll see. Probably another epic fail. Oh, speaking of epic fail, I also made you this. If this ends up in the garbage, it won't hurt my feelings, Sam. So the idea was to make a lightsaber stand with like the Death Star wall lights on it. This can be plugged in with a regular USB adapter, like from your iPhone or something. It also comes with this little battery pack, so in case you want to just tuck this in a drawer, work that way too. But there's lots of different lighting effects. There's some, they're called fairy lights in here that I hot glued into the bed. But I think it's 8 clicks or something like that. There we go. So yeah, the idea was to just have some light coming up underneath the lightsaber. So, if it's sitting on the stand, it'll light up the bottom of it a little bit. Kind of a failed experiment. I think the lighting concept is okay. I ended up just using wax paper because I couldn't find some white acrylic. If you got white acrylic, that would look really cool underneath there. And then obviously I just need to screw these in. It comes with these 2 little guys here to hold the lightsaber. It was a good idea, and the file actually took me about a day to print because I struggled with the printer getting these first circles that it puts down. I really struggled trying to get that to like stick to the bed. But so anyway, I painted it, and I accidentally left it in the sun to dry, and I guess 3D prints melt in the sun. So anyway, it might be hard to tell, but this is not perfectly straight. It's good, but it's not perfect, so it bugs the heck out of me. So again, if this ends up in the garbage, you are not going to hurt my feelings at all. It's not perfect, but it's neat anyway. So I'm sending you this too. But yeah, that's all I got. I don't know why I always say I'm going to make a short video on something. It ends up being like 20 minutes, so I apologize. But thank you for watching. Thank you for letting me share. Again, I'm just kind of making this for myself to document the process of me making my first 3D print. And hopefully I get a lot better at this and I can start pumping out some Mandalorian helmets or something. I would love to make a Mandalorian, a Stormtrooper. Once I made the Revan mask, my son said, "Can you make me a Darth Vader mask, but the one from Rebels?" And I was like, okay. I could. It's a lot harder to figure out the volume of fitting a 7-year-old's head and a fully enclosed helmet, not just a mask, and getting the eye height right to your neck and the back and the front to fit around your head, and then another helmet piece go on top of it. So it would be pretty hard, buddy. And he's like, "So you can?" So I don't know. I'll probably end up attempting that too at some point. But okay, thanks guys. Thanks for letting me share. May the force be with you. Catch you next time.